So today I was just wanting to point out a little bit of something I found on the SPY Daily, and I apologize. This chart is pretty messy, pretty busy. But if I hide all my patterns, what you see here is the SPY Daily. I like using the SPY as I do find that it's a proxy of all the major markets. At least if I know what's going on in the SPY, I got a pretty good idea what's going on in NASDAQ and the SPIX or S&P 500, as SPY is actually an ETF of the SPIX. So anyway, long story short, it's more tradable in my opinion, and therefore that's one of the reasons I like it better. You do have to watch out for dividends because they will pull the stock down a little bit. Maybe not so much on this one, but maybe leading up to it. Anyway, you'll see I do mark dividends on my recordings as well. But anyway, I'm going to put these patterns back up because obviously I've got a lot of support and resistance lines now. I'd take those out for better display, but I'm kind of new at this. I'm trying to do some publishing on TradingView on their site to publish instead of I typically publish on Seeking Alpha. But I don't know, this seems kind of interesting. I'm also doing a little experiment with Vwap. So if you look at this Cayenne line, that should be a little magnetic as well. But let's talk about the pattern. Maybe we start off with it naked again. One thing I also like to do is the VPVR, which is a volume price. What does it stand for? Something or another. Anyway, what it's saying is at this price point, this is the volume of sellers and buyers. So I find that interesting. You can often find this POC, point of control, which is where basically the average of all of those, if you notice, if you average these, is probably line up out here. Also very much so lines up as resistance or support, which, by the way, if you notice, we're parabolically heading to that. Anyway, I have to keep this video short, otherwise TradingView won't post it. So I'm going to move on. If I turn my shapes back on. So one thing I'll notice, the white upper and lower leg is a descending wedge that is bullish, which usually would make it pop off. What we did see is it did pop off. We had a blow off top happen earlier in the pattern. I generally see them break a little early. I mean, they very rarely go to the extreme. In the VIX, we have one running that hard, but a lot of times I see them pop about here. This is a bullish pattern. I would draw it in red, or green, but obviously I have too much going on this chart. What happened though, we did get some, we had the Powell Howl here. So what that means is Jerome Powell, the chairman of the Fed, had when they decide if they're going to do a rate hike, blah, blah, blah. And sometimes they feed up into these, the market does, sometimes down. But on this one, it fed up and they liked what he said, and he was accused of being very dovish, which I believe he was myself. And we ended up with just a blow off top. Now you can see this red wedge, which is a bearish pattern, which means I expect it to fall when it completes. We're staying in it. We left to right consolidated, ran up. We could left to right consolidate again, but we're kind of getting to the point where I don't know. I'm moving this a little bit. I do think we'll start to see something happen here. I'll even change the color of this to red, so it's maybe a little more visible, maybe a little less, who knows. One thing I'll also point out is we do have multiple downside gaps. Downside gap, I call it lower gap here. Downside gap. These white lines, by the way, that run this big length are pre-COVID trend lines, and it's always been my suspicion that we'll revert to the mean. And I actually expected this wedge to make it into these two trend lines and then do what we started seeing here. Maybe not as violently, but I did think that we'd probably see about 330. So, markets tend to overshoot, so some of us are even saying down in the 325s. But long story short, we got at least 1, 2, 3 downside gaps to blow through. Maybe I'll even push it a little farther because of that. And then we're in the pre-COVID trend line, and we can start doing our bull grind back up finally. Won't that be nice? I'm so sick of being a bear. Anyway, on that note, I'm going to cut this off. I just wanted to show out a pattern, show off a pattern I've been working on and keeping an eye on. You will notice the RSI getting up way overbought, overbought at 72, kind of lining up with where my wedge is supposed to break. And here, even I'll drop a line on that even. So if truly my wedge breaks, I mean, we could literally be looking at like Monday or Tuesday, sometime next week, I expect. Now it's still possible it could run farther, it could run till the end of August, but right now I don't think so. Now does that mean it violently comes down like it did in 4 days right here? I don't know. I really don't. We'll find out, but I do expect that we got to fill some of these lower gaps. 94% of all gaps get filled in the market. So bang, 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 we got 3 below to knock out. We have none above. So that's my expectation of the SPY. And then I think we start our grind back up. Remember, pullbacks are natural. We've already done a bunch of pulling back this year since January. If I back this chart way out, you can get the auto turned off so I can actually move it around a little. You can actually see this pre-COVID, trend lines. Here's COVID, by the way. And then I did some fib stuff in here. Flip it back to auto, zoom in again. Again, bear with my overcomplicated chart. But if you look at where the 68% retracement was on that, where was that? Right about here. So right about the bottom of this, 60%, but right about the bottom of this trend line, you can see actually I have a green one in there. It's just buried in the colors, which puts us at what, about 339. So that's quite a ways to drop from where we're at right now at 427. It's 25% drop. Will it go that far? Maybe unlikely. Will it go 20%? Yeah, well, we've already done that more than once. So anyway, that's all I got to say. And if you have comments, please leave it. Please leave some feedback. I'm posting this to TradingView where I used to post to Seeking Alpha, so excuse any mistakes I made. Oh, I forgot to point out the MACD is also pretty high, and it looks like, no, it's not curling yet, but it's high. So again, any thoughts or comments, I'd sure like to hear them. And this is the first one I've tried to actually do a video on and post. So let's see how it works. Thank you kindly.